Hello YouTube, this is Namanjan coming out with a new tutorial. So last time we made an action bar and we learned how to draw the action bar on the game. So this is how our GUI looks right now. So we have this action bar over here, and with on the action bar we have these three different skills that we're drawing on. So now that we're drawing all the skill slots, now we need to bring them into action. So for that we're going to go into our script and go to skill slot script, and you're going to notice here that we don't have the mono behavior, and that's fine. We don't want the mono behavior. I'm just going to zoom in as well. It just has to be skill slot over here, and we're going to delete the void update and void start, and we're going to make a new method called public void activate skill, let's say. So what this basically is going to do is it's going to assign the skill with this key. So for example, we have every skill slot has a skill, right? It's going to associate this skill with this key. So whenever you press this key, it's going to play the skill. It might not make sense now, but it's going to make sense. So what you're going to do is we're going to say activate skill, and then you're going to say key code key. Let's call it key. Okay, let's call it a different name from this one. Let's call it um, key code, yeah, with a small k over here. So small k e y, big c o d. Don't make it big k because it's not gonna make sense. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna say if skill is not equal to null. So we're checking if it is not equal to null, just to avoid any errors. And then we're gonna say skill dot key is equal to key code, and that's it. And we're gonna go back over here. We're gonna go back over here, and instead of saying skill 0 dot key, we're gonna say skill 0 dot set. So that activate skill, and then sorry, this is by the way the action bar script. We're going in on line on mine it is 32, no 36. So what we're doing is we're gonna instead of saying over here we had skill 0, skill 1, skill 2 dot key is equal to QWE. This is where we're setting the key code. Instead of setting the key code like this, we're gonna say dot activate skill, and then we're gonna say key code dot q. In fact, I'm gonna change the name of this, and we're gonna say instead of activate skill, we're gonna say set key, and then you're gonna say key is equal to key code over here in skill slot. So we're saying if skill is not equal to null, the skill key is equal to key code, and the key over here is also equal to key code. In fact, we might actually need this to be, yeah. So we're gonna say skill 0 dot set key, and we're setting the key to Q, and same thing with here. Set key to W, and then same thing here, set to E. So now this way each skill is associated with the key. So now what's going to happen is when you go to your special attacks, you're going to see it is 1, 2, and 3. But when you play it, it's going to set to Q, W, and E. And now when you press W, I'm pressing W over here, it actually plays the skill. I'm pressing E over here. So now we actually got our action bar to life. Okay, so now let's say that we want to add a new skill to our player. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go over here. We're gonna add a special attack, and here the fight player. We need to drag the player over here, so we can drag the player fighter to the script over here, and we need a new texture. So let's choose a purple one for this. Let's drag in a purple, and then let's choose a key. That really doesn't matter because we're gonna set it in over here. So what we need to do over here is we need to go over here, copy this in action bar script where we're setting the skill the key code of 0, 1, 2 on line 39. Then skill 3 is equal to key code R. There. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna say damage percentage, whatever we want. What are the previous ones? 2 0 0. Let's put this 1 and stun time to be 1 point. Let's make it 2. You don't need to do anything with this. Particle effect, none, because it's not a projectile, it's a normal thing. No projectiles, and opponent based. So it's just making a new skill. And what you're gonna see is it magically adds that new skill to our action bar. And now when we press R, it gives an error. Is it because we don't assign anything? Oh yeah, there we go. It gives an error because it didn't assign anything. So now when I press I'm pressing R over here, it's actually using the new skill. Okay, so let me just check what this is. Oh, we'll just do a small thing over here. We're gonna say if opponent is not equal to null, and that should finish it. So we're going to fighter and the fighter script, and we're going in bool in range, in line 161, and we are adding this new line to the if statement. And hopefully it works. I'm not going to spend so much time because it's an action bar tutorial. So yep. Okay. Wait, let me check if it works even though we don't drag over it. Yep, it's fine. Yep. Okay. So now we're done with that. So now I've showed you that just to add a new skill to the action bar, you just need to add a new special attack skill to the player. So now let's say we want to do bindings to the key bindings. So for example, now these 4 skills are only they're only attached to QWER, but what if the player wants 1, 2, 3, 4, or just its own combination A, R, T, F, I don't know, some random thing. So for that, we're gonna enable key binding. So we're gonna go to action bar, and we're gonna go to the very top, and have a public bool, or we can just make it private, doesn't matter, just make it private. Say private, just say bool. When you don't put a public, it automatically means private. For the bool keybind. So now what this is gonna say, so how the system is gonna work is, what we're gonna do is we're gonna play it, and it's gonna be a little different and easier than other games. So what you're gonna say, if the player clicks the skill, we're gonna go in keybind mode. So what this means is now the first skill is Q. If you click it and he presses F, the first skill is gonna be binded to the key F. That is how the system is going to work. If we press the third skill and we press the key S, it's going to get binded to key S. And then yeah, and then it's over. So we're going to have a bool key bind. What's going to happen is when we play and when we press a skill, it knows that we're going to make the key bind boolean to true. So now it knows that when this is true, that we're in key binding mode. So it knows that the next key that we're gonna press, we are supposed to key bind it to that. If that doesn't make sense, it'll make sense once I start coding. So we're gonna go over here. I'm gonna say void set keybind. Key bindings, let's say. So this is where it's gonna check what we're clicking in, all the stuff, all the actions. So it's gonna say, we're gonna for loop through each one of these skills over here, and we're gonna check if the player is actually clicking any of those skills. So I'm gonna show you. We're just gonna copy this for loop over here, or somewhere more convenient. Yeah. Just copy the for loop. It just says we're just looping through all the skill slots we're looping through over here. We're gonna say if and put that get mouse position. Yep, no. Dot mouse position. Or sorry, let's actually say if skill dot skill count square bracket count dot position. It is Draw skill slot. Yeah, it's position. So we're gonna say if skill counts dot position dot contains new vector. So we're checking if the mouse if the mouse is within the skill drawing over here. I'll explain in just a moment. Where did this come out of? Okay, and then we're going to say input dot get mouse position. I'm sorry, I'm just mouse position dot x and input dot get mouse mouse position dot y. And remember, I said this before. It's screen dot height minus, because it's something to do with this. It's something to do with this being the lowest and this being the highest. This being 1000, like the highest y, and this being the lowest y at the top. It's the other way around for y, which is very weird. One more bracket over here, and that should be fine. And it's not a semicolon, it's another. We're opening this up over here. So now what we're gonna do is, if it actually comes in, and we're gonna have another one over here. We're gonna say if event dot event over the capital E dot current dot is mouse, and so it checks if the current event is related to mouse. That's important to check in this case. And then we're also gonna say I'm gonna say if input dot get mouse button down 0, because we want to check if the player has actually pressed the button, mouse button. Okay, and this checks if it is a mouse event. And then what we're gonna do is, for now, we're gonna say debug.log skill. Well, we're gonna say count, debug.log count, and then just to check if it's working or not. And then we have to call this method in onGUI over here, set key bindings, because we have to call it again and again to check the input. Okay, and I'm gonna press over here, and of course it doesn't work. I'll be back in a second. Okay, so I know the problem. So basically we're supposed to do get screen rect, because remember, this skill slot that position is between 0 and 1, and it is in terms in between 0 and 1, but this is going to give the absolute value, like we did, just like we did over here when we were drawing the skill slot. We did get screen rect. The same way here, we're going to say dot get screen rect, so it's getting the actual position of the screen. And then you're going to say get screen rect skill count dot position, then close bracket over there that contains the new vector. I'll just put it over here so you can see it. I'll just go through here and get screen rect. That's a long line, so you guys can, so that's the line over there, just so you can copy it down. And I did some debugging over there previously. Check, and then hopefully when you click, it gives 0, 1, 4, 3, 2. Now it works. So now what's gonna happen is, after we actually press it, we're gonna say, actually we're gonna not have a bool, we're gonna have an int keybind slot, actually. Keybind slot. So instead of saying false and true, what we're gonna do is, if we click on a slot, we're gonna set it with the number. But if there's no slot selected, we're going to set it to -1, so we know that we're not in key binding mode. So if this is -1, it's not in key binding mode. And let's set this to -1 by default, because by default we are not selecting any slot. Then we're going to say keybind slot is equal to count. And now what we're going to do is, we're going to go over here again. Actually, go over here. I'm thinking, okay, yeah. What you're gonna do is you're gonna say if keybind slot is equal to -1. I'm gonna explain what I'm doing over here. So we're saying if there is no slot already selected, this is what it means. We're gonna say the keybind slot is now selected to 0, 1, 2, or 3, depending on what you selected. But if there's already one selected, so basically what happens is sometimes what can happen is you can press one slot over here and then press another one over here without actually pressing the key. So then what happens is, in that case, we're not if there's already a keybind slot selected, we're just gonna set it to negative. We're gonna unselect it again. So if you press it twice, it's gonna unselect. Oh, it's okay. So basically, what's gonna happen is I'm gonna actually make this public, so you can see it. I'm gonna go to GUI and we have our action bar over here, and we have our keybind slot selected as -1. I'm not sure if you can see it, but it's -1 over here. And then I click over here, it's 1 because we selected the second one, but it's 1 because it's 0, 1, 2, 3. But if you click another one again, it sets to -1, so it unselects it. So if you go 0, we select the first one, it's 0, and we click it again, it goes back to -1 over here. I'll make that to private again. And then what we're gonna do is, in the same method over here, we're gonna say if keybind slot is not equal to -1. So if you're actually selected something, because if you have actually selected something, and input.get key down or up, doesn't matter, let's say down. I'll be in a second. So what we're gonna have is if keybind slot is not equal to -1, so if there's a slot selected, and event dot current dot is key. So we're checking if the players actually press the key. Then we're gonna go over here and say that skill square bracket, skill square bracket. So we're calling the skill slot, and we're saying keybind slot dot key is equal to event dot current dot get dot key code. So we're setting it to the current key code, and then what we're doing is we're sending keybind slot to -1 because we want to set it to unselected after we have binded the key. So this is here we are binding the key. This is the main thing. Okay, so now let's see if this works or not. We're gonna go over to player to check if these work. So now as you can see, the first skill over here is Q. I don't know if you can see it, but it's Q over here. I click on the first one, I press A, and it doesn't work. Okay, of course it doesn't work. We need to do set key. So we're not gonna do dot key, we're gonna say dot set key, because in the set key it sets the skill.key is equal to key code. That's the important part. Setting this to something does not make any difference. I'm gonna go back. In fact, I don't even think we need this thing over here in skill slots. We don't need that variable, key variable. Yeah, just delete that as well. No, we didn't even need it. And now I'm gonna click. So the first one over here is Q. I'm gonna click on this I and press A, and as you can see, it says A over here. But now as you see, okay. But as you see, it said in action over here. So while we're key binding, we don't want our skill to do anything, because what happened was now the skill is not an action, but when I click it and press A, it says it's an action. But we don't want that. We don't want it to do anything while we're key binding. So the best way to go around this is we could make a public bool activate is equal to true. So when and then we're gonna go to our special skill, and we're making a new new variable called activated. Let's call it activated. We're gonna say in our update method, we're gonna say if activated, and so it's checking if the skill is actually activated. And in our action bar, what we're gonna do is whenever we set our keybind slot to a number, so while something is selected, I'm gonna say skill count that skill that activated is equal to false. So we don't want it to play anymore. We don't want it to do anything anymore. Or we can just put in a keybind slot. Doesn't really matter. And then once we set it, we're gonna say we're gonna go down over here, and we're gonna set it back to true. And let's see if it works. Yeah, it should work. And now I'm gonna click and press A, and it doesn't work. Okay, I'll be back. Okay, since we've gone over time, we can deal with this problem next tutorial. And next tutorial, we're just gonna deal with this problem, and it's gonna take just a minute. And then after that, we're gonna start the inventory system, because a lot of people are asking me to continue the inventory system. So yeah, if you liked it, please subscribe, like, and share the video, and thank you very much.